What stands out for me? Well, I think uniqueness. I was born in China. Actually, at the time, it was not belonging to China. Japan was, we call that Manchuria, the moment, that because the reason why the Manchuria was part of the Manchuria, most southern part of Manchuria was belonging to the Russian. The Russian is, we call the White Russian. Before they had a revolution, they had the White Russian and the Red Russian. But the White Russian occupied most southern part of Manchuria. And it was 1902. Japan and Russia had a fight, war. And the total supply to the world. Japan won against Russia. Therefore, Russia gave up that part of the territory. So Japan got that Manchuria, most southern part, and that was, I was born, because Manchuria was developed by the Japanese government, become like an ally. My father, actually my grandfather, first went to Manchuria, to work in the Manchuria Railroad Company. And my grandfather invited my father after he graduated dental school in Japan to come over. Here's a future and a great place to live. So my father went, as he was a single, he went to Manchuria and he started working Manchuria Railroad Hospital as a dentist. And maybe 3-4 years later, he decided to open up his own private practice in Manchuria. Then the one we call the Darien now, the name the Darien city. And where I was born, all my 4 siblings were born, and actually my mother got married with my father from Japan to come to the Manchuria. She was a very brave woman to go to the Manchuria at the time. So anyway, she married with my father, and she had 4 kids. And I was one of the first kids. So that was my childbirth. And actually I was born February 16, 1933. So today I am 85 years old. And today is what? May 24th, 2018. My early school life was great. I really enjoyed. Although I was a kind of a little bit like a weak kid because my physical condition, first baby, and it's not strong baby. So that time, interesting story is clearly boys and girls are totally separate in the classroom. But if the physically weak kids, not strong, not mentally but physically, they put together boys and the girls, first and second 2 years. So I was first 2 years sitting with a girl next to me, which is unusual. Most other kids are sitting either boys' class or girls' class. But I was kind of a little bit weak kids. But mentally, I guess, very good, I guess. I was very good at mathematics. So always top level math. When the math teacher asks question, I'm the raise hands and answer question. So anyway, starting 3rd grade, I was getting physically strong. So I guess they put purposely. So they give like a special meal, like a lunch hour, more like a nutritious food to enhance your, physical strengths. So anyway, that was my childhood age. We are leaving the city because it was previously occupied the White Russian, and well developed. They had already sewage system. They had a nice the paved road, and both sides has a walking street, street, and what else? Yeah, the cows are running already. Can you imagine 1933? My neighbor had already old, like a Chevrolet type old car.
Your neighbor had a car?
Yes. He was a builder, and he had a huge garage as well as a huge background. They had a huge holding all the wood material back. So we used to kids when we used to go there and hide, seek and hide, kind of playing. Yeah, that's my childhood memory. So going to the around, let's see, sixth grade. Unfortunately, the World War II started, 1940, and I just about turning to the middle school, first year middle school, 1940, and it was about 30 minutes train ride, like a streetcar ride, to go to school. But near that, the area school was surrounded by the water. So I was getting stronger, so I joined like boat rowing club, like a boys. So it's about 6 months I enjoyed that, because then just about end of the first year middle school, my clock.
It's your clock. Well, when it finishes, we'll
Every hour they make the music. By the way, this is made in Japan, and the very limited edition. You can't buy anymore. Only they made a 500 this clock because the centennial.
Oh,
you can see that.
Beautiful, yeah.
So I belong to this boat rowing club. I enjoyed.
Single rowing?
Yes. No. I think about.
Routine?
Yeah, they call it here. They call it regatta. Yeah. But at that time, the boat is not like like regatta is a very slim and long.
Right. How many people?
About 6 people. Okay. Yeah, and rowing,
And one coxswain?
Yeah, the coxswain band. Actually, not both hands. I think one hand, like almost regatta type. But afternoon, we have to go to the field to make a potato, all kind of vegetables, because just the war started, so you need to self-supply of all the food. So we did kind of work, half day, go to class morning, and afternoon go to the field to working like a farmer. Anyway, war goes on, and 1945, the war end, I remember, and it was a very sad moment. But anyway, that's where it is. And after that, after the war, Russia broke the treaty between Japan and Russia, no invasion, but they broke the treaty. And 10 days before the end of the war, Russian came from northern Manchuria through the Korea to the Manchuria. They came down from north to south very quickly.
Like an invasion?
Invasion. And we are not prepared against that. So that moment started a miserable life, all Japanese. No food to eat, nothing, no jobs. But we learned at that time, because my father was a dentist, so he had some technique in his hand. So still, if a dental pain, patient comes. But funny things was not Japanese patient only, but Russian soldiers. They come to my father's office. They want to put the gold teeth as a decoration, gold. And on the token of the payment, instead they pay by the bag of the rice, big carton of the crackers stolen from Japanese army. And that we got so many stuff. So our neighbors have no food, nothing, they have no work. So we are able to distribute to my neighbor. So this was a very, helpful to them. But we learned that, and my parents, or particularly my father, emphasized, for the future, if you want to be future, you have to have something in your hands. Because most of people, if you're a school teacher, office worker, those people lost a job, no jobs. But the dentists, engineers, doctors always have jobs. So already put into my brain, you have to be something in your hands. So that's the way we are raised. So actually my younger brother was a doctor, and my third brother is a dentist because he inherited my father's job. And my sister married with as a doctor. So we have like a doctor's family. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I was griping to my parents, why we have so many doctors in my family? I want to have someone else different.
A musician.
Yeah, musician or something, merchant, selling the clothes or something, else. Well, anyway, that's a side story. So my father was actually a dentist. They need a doctors, a dentist, engineers. So they retained the 2 years even after the war, because most regular people sent back to Japan. But we are retained. So we came back 1947 to Japan, from Manchuria to Japan. And then we settled into where my father was born, Nagano. It's the Nagano prefecture. Actually, name of the city is Matsumoto. And Matsumoto city was kind of where I was raised. So I was raised from that in the end of the 3rd grade of the middle school to the end of the, I went to the high school. And high school was actually good high school. They had 3 high schools that area. Was another two girls high school. Both, at the time, very clearly separate the boys' schools and girls' school. So there are 3 boys' school, high school, and 2 girls' high school. And I was kind of, it was in number 1, number 2, number 3 high school. I was a number 1 high school. So according to the ability, to the mental capacity, I guess. They have a test to go in anyway. So all my brothers, and even including sister, went to the same school, Fukashi High School. Mm-hmm. And that time my sister was able to go into the boys' school. Actually, this is a boys' school. But gradually, loosen up that kind of strict, separation. So my sister was smart enough. She passed the examination. She went to the same school. So my whole siblings went to the same school. And after that, high school time, I played soccer. I was a goalkeeper most of the time. Yeah, I enjoyed that playing. But I think maybe second, toward the high school, end of the high school, I rather want to concentrate more studying to go to the college. So I think I quit. No more. It's a soccer game. So I went to the pre-medical school in the Chiba.
Pre-medical?
Pre-medical. 2 years pre-medical school. Mm-hmm. Then after that, I went to medical school, where the same Matsumoto. Luckily, we had a medical school in the where I was raised.
Same area.
Same area. So I went to because they call it Shinshu. Another name of the Nagano means another name is Shinshu. So Shinshu Medical School, Shinshu University of Medical School.
In general, how did the Japanese medical school compare to the American medical school?
Well, at the time I went to let's see, I graduated in 1959, so in 1955 I entered the medical school.
In Japan?
In Japan. And at that time I think still Japan is slightly behind of that American medicine as well as German. Half of the professor went to Germany to study, and half of the professor went to the United States. So we are forced to learn both German and English. Mm-hmm. And at the time, the general atmosphere of the doctors and the patient relationship was, don't tell anything to the patient. Keep inside, just among the profession, but not tell the patient. So
this was the Japanese style?
Yeah, I think that the German style primarily. And influenced by that kind of mentality. So in front of the patient, we don't speak Japanese language. We speak only either German or English. So patient doesn't know what's going on.
Do you still carry that, still same philosophy?
No, no way. Absolutely not.
Uh-huh.
But at that time we were raised, so we are quite fluent speaking, particularly German. So, so after graduate medical school, then I went to the internship in Tokyo, First National Hospital in Tokyo, which is a good hospital. So I got very good training. At the time, I felt like I know everything. End of the first internship.
Isn't that a characteristic of you?
I don't know, but just a good hospital, good training, and good opportunity to learn to see the patient. So, or something like I remember, we had at least about 1,300 patients in this hospital, and weekend at the job of the internship to go around to give an injection to the mostly intravenous injections is only the doctors can do that. So that job is about 150 patients I have to stick in to the weekend. That was the job of the intern. So after that, I went to the University Tokyo after internship to the Department of Neuropsychiatry. And I learned mostly that I was very interested in neuropharmacology. Means neuropharmacology, the drug to working to the brain. And I stayed about 5 years working in as well as the.
What year was this?
I went to 1960.
And that was pretty new in those days, wasn't it?
Yes,
New field.
new field. Yes, because at that time the treatment of that mental patient there's no good drug. We were very using electric shock, or inducing the high fever by using the malaria vaccine and treating. There's not good treatment, but I think new drugs developed by the mostly French at the time, early 1950, and I just went to 1960. So I was very interested in that area. Mm-hmm. So I learned quite a lot during that school time. So it was 1960, and in 1966 I had the opportunity to come to the United States. Actually, American Air Force offered this scholarship and to study, to learn. If you send the astronaut to the moon, and if the astronaut taking we call the psychedelic drugs, like LSD 25 or mescaline, or like a THC, now we call that the marijuana. Those drugs, what happened? So my professor in the University of Minnesota, he was studying that particular area. So I was invited and I got scholarship. So I went to University of Minnesota, Minneapolis. So at the time, US system is also not clear. Patient informed consent form. And we didn't give any patient to hold any research. And at the time, mostly university student. There's a volunteer.
And they were using experimental.
Yes, and yes, experimental drug, and put in like a dark room, and just put some kind of Google type, vision goggle to see as if like you are going with flying to the moon, and. But this became a later hallucinatory drug. Like I said, the LSD 25 or, the mescaline or THC. Sure, but actually my professor was called by Congress to testify at what you're doing, and there is that meaningful kind of, all that, inquiries. I remember that. But at the time, there's no clear consensus how that research should be done, and how that that the patient or candidate or subject to be informed. So, anyways, that I remember very clearly. It's a clear event. But after 1 year, oh, that's right. During that period, as I mentioned, that I belonged to the Lutheran Church group, and the Lutheran Church group in September, they had a picnic, and here comes that.
What year was this?
Huh?
What year?
1966. I came to the 1966 and then September. Mm-hmm. So maybe the picnic was not September, maybe like August or October, 1 month later. Mm-hmm. I met my wife. She was also one of the group of the other part of the groups. So then
what you're saying now had nothing to do with the research you...
No, nothing to do. Just having a good time with a picnic.
Right.
I met my wife and then started dating.
Right.
Yes, and
what attracted you to her?
She was kind of she was very interested in Japanese culture. She apparently learned something she knows already, but she was, when she told me when she was a kid, you're Jap, because her eyes, according to her, I don't think her eyes was small, but she was like a tiny slit. So, oh, you're Jap, kind of taught her like bullying, But anyway, she was very interested in Japanese culture. That maybe it triggered to, because otherwise I feel uncomfortable to mm-hmm. not knowing like my Japanese culture, but she was very interested. Mm-hmm. So
what other interests did you share?
Oh, she was interested in Japanese food, cooking. So she knows like how to make like a sukiyaki. Sukiyaki is one of the typical Japanese entertainment food. So she was able to make it. Well, actually, she made it for me. That very impressed me. I had no idea how she can make it, but she made it. So but after she graduated, she moved to San Diego and teaching in the grade school.
And you were where?
I was 1 year after Minnesota, as you can imagine, so cold, brutal. You can't walk the winter time, just about more than one blocks. You have to jump into the apartment wherever that you can jump into inside. Leave it warm up, then start walking. And the car didn't start. I had a car, but the car, you have to stick to the warmer into the engine, actual engine oil, to keep warm.
Right.
Otherwise the car couldn't start. So after 1 year, I couldn't stand that so cold. I decided to go. Fortunately, I had a previous acquaintance, the director of the research hospital in Illinois, Galesburg, small town. So I moved into this Galesburg State Research Hospital. So they had 3,000 patients over there, and as well as the research facilities. They had
they were psychiatric hospitals?
Yeah, they was psychiatric hospital, but they had also both psychiatric as well as neurological patient. I was more interested in neurology anyway. So
that would be brain injuries?
Yeah, brain injuries or like a Parkinson's, all these neurological diseases. So I stayed there about 5 years, worked both patient as well as research. So I did a lot of research work and maybe published maybe 10 papers. I wrote like a book, it's about chapter of the book, under his, Dr. Himbich. He's quite well known at the time. And I worked 5 years. Then I was kind of interested in American psychiatry. So I decided to go back to the hospital, to the more research, instead of just research of my own patient. I joined to the Illinois State Psychiatric Hospital in Chicago. And I want to learn some like American dynamic psychiatry, and what I was curious. I had no clear idea. But as soon as I joined, I found that dynamic psychiatry is mostly emphasizing on the psychotherapy, and they don't talk about any physical condition. I felt that was wrong. Patient is not just mental, or the coming from the body and the mental together. And if you ignore the body part, something missing. I strongly felt that time when taking the patient case to presentation. Yeah, that's right. I was very disappointed the way that you treat a patient, or you know summarizing the patient condition. You can't ignore. Actually, I was trained from Japanese medicine. Before you start talking about your mental condition, make sure patient or the physical condition is acceptable, normal condition. Otherwise, you're missing very important part. You can't just isolate just mental. You have to make sure that the physical or the physical status is normal. Then you can start talking the mental. So after 1 year, I was kind of struggling whether I should stay this kind of American psychiatric training. And in the meantime, I had a second baby. Oh, by the way, I didn't talk about my kids, but I had 3 kids. And the first.
You didn't even talk about getting married.
Getting married. Oh, I talked about.
You talked about your wife going to San Diego.
Yeah, that's right.
I never heard that you were married.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to the story. 2 years we had a correspondence. Right. She went to San Diego. I went to the Illinois, and 2 years we had a correspondence, just more or less, Then we decided to get married. Of course, I visited San Diego. She came to my hospital in Illinois, so we know each other. And so we married August 17, 1968. So that's our marriage. My daughter was born Minneapolis. Although I was already left to Minneapolis, but we do know that through her mother, there was a good obstetrician in the University Hospital in Minneapolis. And my wife had incompetent cervix. So when the baby getting maturing, heavier, incompetent cervix, can't hold it. Right. So we realized that because we lost first baby, but second baby we realized that important. So we immediately went to the University Hospital in Minneapolis, and she got operation, Shiratka operation. That's a technique, very technique, tidying up the uterus, end of the uterus. So she was able to stay there, and she was born November 31st, 1969. So that was the first baby, Sonia. And after that, actually, I was working in Galesburg. Then I moved to Chicago, as I told you. I decided to take a residency. And so my second boy, Ken, he was born in Chicago. And at the time, I felt I need more money because resident being paid so minimum. I don't have enough money to raise my family. And at the time, my close friend who did the internship together in Japan, he was already working drug company, Beringer Ingelheim. And he suggested it's not so bad to work in drug company and get a good amount of salary. So I was curious to, I never worked before any industry, always in the hospital or a public hospital. So I decided to join, maybe 2 years. I will join the industry, the drug company. So the opportunity came from, they call the Reddery Laboratories.
What?
Leathery, L-E-D-R-L-E, Leathery Laboratories, located in the Pearl River, New York. So I joined in 1973 to the drug company, and I moved from Chicago to the New York. And the company tricked me. First year, literally, I got salary increase 3 times. I couldn't believe it. I didn't ask anything, but apparently they needed me, I guess. So increase. So that was that I was trapped to industry. I was originally thinking only I work 2 years. I want to go back to clinic to the patient care. But I ended up working in drug company 23 years.
Wow.
Well, I think that with that time, if a physician who has the ability to help to develop the new drugs, they want to retain. So in order to retain something, they need an incentive.
Right.
By the way, I'm not only getting the salary, but I gained about 20 pounds because eating the good food and all the My job, the primary job, that developing that. Because my background is neuropharmacology, so developing the drugs for the primary for the psychiatric patient, like such as schizophrenia or depression or anxiety patient. So anti-psychiatric drugs. That was the primary job. I was hired. But after that, company changes, the structures and president of the company. They had a different kind of a philosophy. Then about 5 years, that we was told that the physician had to do anything, not just the psychiatric or neurological area. You have to do the cardiology or rheumatology or even oncology, cancer. So I was kind of started training myself too, but also attending the training course outside to getting the more specialized in the area. So I was quite happy to, in other words, diversifying your experience and do the all kinds. So I actually, after that, Leathery was absorbed actually under the American cyanamide on the Leathery, but the American cyanamide was bought by the American Leathery, yes. That time, most American companies own the different kind of divisions, pharmaceutical division, agricultural divisions, consumer divisions, kind of stuff, right? But the American cyanamide was bought. That company was absorbed, actually disappeared. So I was forced to another company, Wires, W-Y-E-T-H, Wires.
Yes.
And located in Pennsylvania, actually outside of Philadelphia. So that period, 4 years, I was the head of my neuropsychiatry department. So I was a very interesting drug I was developing. Actually, this a sleeping drug, and makes patients sleepy, and it was a good drug. So I felt very confident. I want to finish the job, to carry on, and to get approval by the FDA, Food Drug Administration. So I went to with my project to go to reluctantly to the Pennsylvania, and that 4 years period I was commuting, not everyday commuting, weekend commuting. I had an apartment in outside of Philadelphia, actually Radnor, named the town Radnor, and my wife was still living in New York. So 4 years period was a kind of miserable time. Every weekend, after like Sunday afternoon, like 6 p.m. after supper, I have to drive back. 2 hours driving back to the Pennsylvania, and I hated. And also the company culture was just awful. You can't speak up if anything negative data when during development. You see the drug is not always rosy, fancy, everything good. Sometimes you see negative data, and you have to speak up, tell Here's a bad data. We may not feel, but the company culture that the other company wires, they don't allow you to speak out in the public forum. They don't like to listen to anything negative part. But anyway, so eventually the company developed some like a cardiovascular drug to the patient has a heart condition. They pushed to get approval because this drug came from France, actually licensed, and the company started developing first and went to the market. After 1.5 years, all the side effects happened. We know that already. This drug is not good, then shouldn't do it. But the person carrying this project, keep the mouth shut. Don't say anything. Only talk about rosy part. So sure enough, when the drug went to market and become more widely used, all the side effects popped up. So company had a big lawsuit and a big loss. So anyway, that was kind of a very learning experience. I knew that, you can't speak to, you can't, hide. You have to speak honestly what you see, and you have to tell to the management either you should go ahead or stop it. But many companies reluctant because once you invested million dollars, finish as soon as my project is getting approval by the FDA, I want to quit anyway. By that time, I was age already close to like 70.
Wow.
So it's enough. And I retired actually 1979. 1979, I retired. Then before retirement, my good friend, actually Japanese guy, he had an office in the Princeton, New Jersey, and he knows me, and he really wanted me to join his company. I was initially not sure whether I should join this company. Well, I know that Takeda is the number one company at the time in Japan, so I know that. And we are good friends as playing golf. I used to play the golf. So he invited me to as a consultant. So I joined to the Takeda in the Princeton. So I moved from Pennsylvania to Princeton, and again still I had an apartment. Got too far away to to commute every day from New York. But eventually I joined his company. Maybe after 1 year consultant, I become a permanent, like a full-time employee. And at the time, I decided to move out from New Jersey, from New York to New Jersey. Always I had a dream. I want to live nearby the water, near the shore, which I did. So I built a house in but anyway, I moved to the New Jersey. I built a house, New Jersey shore, Tom's River, south of Tom's River. Yeah. And it was nice. The house, behind the house is a lagoon. So I bought a boat, small boat, 23 feet.
Asbury?
Grady white. No, Asbury's the more north. Yeah. And I bought a boat, and that was my dream. I want to have my own boat. And I have a picture I can show you.
What kind of boat?
Grady white.
What is that?
Grady white, the name of the boat. This is a picture of my son. We went to the striper.
Okay.
That's my boat. And
so it's a motorboat?
Motorboat, yes. Two.
Who did you go fishing with?
With my son.
Your son?
Mostly he was a very expert fisherman.
Did the girls ever go fishing? They did not have an interest.
Not much, but maybe once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
That I bought. The name of the town is. Let's see. I came back. Bayville.
Bayville?
Yeah, Bayville, New Jersey. That's the name of the town. I built a house there, and so I stayed there, and we did a lot of fishing. Sometimes we went to the canyon. Canyon is about 80 miles offshore. Believe it or not, we were able to go with such small boat. This has a twin engine and the 19 gallons, two tanks, so 180 gallons tank. But we, make sure that we can go and come back.
Right.
So always my son, 25 gallons.
Extra.
We used only maybe once. We went several times to the canyon. So we got tuna, waffle. Even though we tried to catch sailfish and we lost it. So that was a good time. I was working the first time on the Takeda in the Princeton. So once I moved to New Jersey, I was able to commute from Princeton from Bayville to Princeton, about 1 hour driving. So it was not bad. But about 2 years after I started working in Takeda, they decided to move to Chicago, the office. I didn't want to go back to the Illinois. Anyway, Chicago. So I decided to stay at the biggest pharmaceutical company in Japan. Recently, they bought a Shire, English company. Merged, but they bought Shire anyway. So I didn't want to go. But then meantime, another Japanese company, Kyowa, located in the same area, next to the Takeda actually building, and Kyowa, the president of Kyowa, know me, so he asked me to join to that company. So I agreed to work as a consultant. I will not become any more employee, but I work as a consultant. So I worked at Kyowa maybe 5 years as a consultant. Then at the time I was working mostly like neurology, like a Parkinson patient, developing the drug. Or part-time I was working with the oncology, because cancer drug. Then maybe 6 months I didn't work and stayed home. Nice. And at the time, actually, my wife started getting sick. She had an illness. She had ALS, same as her father, Lou Gehrig diseases. We went so many different hospital clinics until the final diagnosis was made at Columbia University. Dr. Mitsumoto, he is a Japanese guy, but finally he said the probable Lou Gehrig disease. Sure enough, she had Lou Gehrig. Unfortunately, Lou Gehrig disease was discovered 100 years ago in Germany. And still, I saw my patient when I was a resident in Tokyo University. Still, we don't have the drug. It's amazing. Very difficult. We know the couple of genes that we found the genes, but these are just the tip of the iceberg. There are many other genes, but still there's no good drug. Only some drugs that prolong maybe 6 months their lives, but it's not cure, nothing. Right. Well, after Kyowa, but I worked as again after Takeda, then joined to Kyowa, and after 5 years, I quit. Maybe 6 months I was not working, spending most time in the home, maybe fishing. But my wife started showing that Lou Gehrig disease symptoms clearly. And, but in the meantime, this president of the Kyowa in Princeton, he went back to Japan, and he worked in maybe 2 years, but after that he retired. Then after that he joined another company, formed a newly company, formed a small biopharmaceutical company. The name is Prism. And president of Prism and this president of the Kyowa, his name is Inada. Both came to visit me to my New Jersey home. And asking to join to this camp. So it was very interesting. Primarily the treatment of the cancer patient, very new molecule, small molecule, new mechanism of action, and very interesting. So okay, I can join and I can work, but my wife's condition is very fragile, so I can't travel, but I can make a consultation from my home. That was the agreement initially. But they said that's fine, as long as you can, help me or help us.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined. Then I worked primarily at home for about 1 year. Maybe 1 or 2 times traveling in the United States, but not much. Yes, well, joining the conference, so I'm going to see the expert in this field, the consultation to ask that, how we can develop, what's the best way to approach, what kind of formulation we should use, all kind of basic questions as well as, highly technical questions. So. But then my wife getting worse, and eventually she expired 2010, April 20th. Well, the changing is very, very drastic because I have married with her over close to 50 years. So, yeah. But in the meantime, I decided to keep my concentration to working. That helped me to, something you can do. Then I was able to more traveling because no more I don't need to stay home. So I did a very extensive traveling back and forth to Japan, or to go to Europe. I did go to South Asia, mostly the concentration in the United States or Europe. And so I did helping to the development of this cancer drug. But until recently, I just finished this my work. Let's see, now in April.
Oh,
Not April. I mean last year April. Well, I think it's my age and I don't want to travel too much anymore. I rather rest of my life to enjoy, and I don't know how many years I can live, but as long as I can keep my healthiness, and mental alertness, that will be good.
So
I'm keeping very active in my life here. Well, actually, I moved this after that from New Jersey to here, 2014. I bought this house. Actually, I didn't build, but this Toll Brothers nicely made house, and this is a 55 plus community.
Okay.
So
you have company here?
Yes, I have a lot of friends here, and so actually I do the. Let's see. After I moved here, I started the bridge game. I never learned it before. I never did bridge. It's very, I don't know, the bridge, but
I played bridge, but it's not one of my passions.
Yeah, very interesting game.
Definitely a mental game.
Yeah, actually, that one of the guys is very good at bridge. He's a teacher, and he's teaching. He had a class, so I attended about 1 year. Once a week. And
you had a teacher.
He was teaching us about 4 students. We learned. So I learned quite a lot, and I'm very interested in it. So I do the bridge every Friday afternoon. That's one activity. I do the bowling Wednesday afternoon.
Bowling?
Bowling, yes.
The big pins or little pins?
No, big pins.
Big pins.
The usual bowling alley.
The big 15-pound ball?
Yeah, I don't know. I can throw about 12-pound ball.
Okay. I used to bowl.
Yeah. Well, I used to in Japan. I did a long time ago, but then I never did bowling. But then.
Are you in a league?
No. We just people
just recreation.
Recreational. Went there. So bowling, and I do the pool game, pool table, billiard, Monday and Friday evening.
Okay.
Twice a week.
So how often do you see your grandchildren?
Grandchildren, occasional.
Occasion.
Yeah, whenever the event, like we had last Mother's Day. event here. My advice to my great grandchildren, okay, the first, be healthy, and eventually you find what you want to in your life. Stick it. Of course, you need a good mentor. Mentor is very important for your life. And getting the good advice and using that advice. And maintain your, once you decide to, you choose your course of your life.